I've got 4 different dot skates to talk to you about today. I've got 2 cloth focused skates and 2 hard pad focused skates. Thank you to Ghostglide for sending me their products to review. I did buy the SkyPAD dots myself, so just bear that in mind as we go through the video. So we'll cover both the cloth focused products first, and we'll start with the Edgerunner skates, which are a pretty standard approach to PTFE dot skates. They're intended for use on cloth pads and they feel really smooth and buttery. Of course, you can still use them on hard pads, but they're really intended for cloth pad use. Clearly, with dot skates, you have less surface area contact between the mouse and the pad, so the glide will be significantly faster than if you use form-fitted PTFE feet. But using dot skates is fun. Being able to apply more or less dots to your mouse to tailor that glide experience is a good way of customizing your mice. When comparing the Edgerunners to the Tiger Ice dots, they perform pretty similarly in my experience. The biggest difference is that the Edgerunners only comes in one size, which is similar to the second smallest size available in the Tiger Ice dot packs. I tend to use the second and third sizes in the Tiger Ice dot packs anyway, so this is a positive to me because I normally end up with odd numbers of dot sizes in my Tiger Ice packs before I give in and buy another set. I will now buy the Edgerunner skates going forward because the convenience of having 40 dots that are all the same size and equally high in quality when compared to the Tiger Ice dots is appreciated, at least for my use case. It just means I can use the Edgerunners without worrying about mixing and matching sizes on the same mouse, if that makes sense. Of course, you'll need to consider if they'll meet your specific needs with reference to size before you purchase. I don't have an awful lot more to say about these. If you're great in use, let's move on. So let's talk about the Vortex dot skates. And these things are awesome. I really think the Vortexes will shake up the market because currently we rub 2 things against each other to get the desired glide effect and feel, and that's typically PTFE in some form of cloth mousepad. And while there are slight differences in how various brands of PTFE feet interact with the same surface, it is only marginally quicker or slower depending on what brand of PTFE feet you choose to use. So now imagine if you could put some form of cloth or fabric on your mouse feet instead. And this would create a significantly higher friction experience and therefore provide an insane level of control from the playing surface. Basically like rubbing 2 mouse pads together. Well, that's exactly what Ghostglides have done here. They've produced the most innovative mouse skate I could have imagined, and I've had a blast with them so far. The Vortex dots have some form of micro-textured surface that run deep into the surface, which really grips onto the mouse pad fabric as you play. I've had some insane clutch moments with these skates installed on my Xlite V2 Medium, and man, do I still love that mouse. So if you buy these and decide that you don't like them, I'd urge you to just give them a bit more time. The glide feeling of these dots is so unique that it can take a little time to adjust to. Initially, it feels like there's constant tugging on the mouse when it's in motion, but after I had adjusted to that feeling, that tugging sensation became less noticeable. And I realized that my confidence in my aim was sky high, specifically with my flick shots. I tend to avoid choosing single fire weapons because my tracking typically performs better for me. But I felt very confident with my flick shots with the Vortexes installed. I didn't have an issue with my micro adjustments, wide swipes or anything like that, but I do use a low sensitivity at about 51 centimeters, so bear that in mind. It has been really weird using the Vortexes on different pads because the speed and glide with this dot skate installed doesn't necessarily correlate to the speed of the pad with conventional mouse feet. So I tried these skates on many different cloth pads, all of which offer different and unique glide experiences. So to give a specific example, when switching between the Zowie GSR2 and the Zowie GSR SE Gris, the Zowie GSR SE Gris felt slower than the GSR2 with the Vortex feet installed, which was interesting because when I do the same test with conventional mouse feet, it would be the other way around. So it all depends on how the different textures interact with each other, which leads me on to whether the textured surface of the dots will be detrimental to the cloth pad in any way. And I haven't noticed any negative side effects on my pad while using these dots, and I've played with these quite a lot over the last few weeks. One of the other concerns I've had with these skates is how long they'll last, and only time will tell. The skates do start to wear in over time, and the look and feel of the skates changes slightly as this effect takes hold. And I haven't worn these skates all the way through yet, so I can't comment specifically on their longevity, but I don't personally have any concerns. The saving grace here for those of you that are worried about them wearing down quickly is that you'll get 40 dots in a pack. So you'll have plenty of replacements if they do wear down slightly quicker than normal PTFE feet. There's two different extremes to glide feel. You can either pursue the no friction experience and use your raw skill and aim ability to hit your shots. And if that's the case, the Edgerunners totally got your back there. Or you can go down the opposite path and build into a higher friction setup that increases the feedback you receive from the pad, and the Vortexes are perfect for that opposite end of the spectrum. In my experience, higher friction glides actually improves my consistency in game, and as a pretty casual player, never going to go pro, the added control and friction is incredibly valuable to me. It boosts my confidence and helps me be more meaningful with my sometimes panicked and erratic movements. Basically me in the final circle in Apex Legends. I know the Vortexes won't be for everyone, but I can't recommend the Vortex skates enough. They're truly special, and I think all of you should give them a try, just to experience something very different to the norm. So we're going to talk about the hard pad skates now, and we'll start by talking about the Cyclones. And although I am reviewing these in the context of hard pads, they work great on soft pads too. And to quickly provide that comparison, to compare the Cyclones to the Edgerunners for cloth pad use, basically the Cyclones will give you ever so slightly more feedback from a cloth pad playing surface. You'll feel the texture of the weave a little bit more on the Cyclones. The Edgerunners will be marginally smoother, so you won't get that same weave feeling as you do with the Cyclones, and they'll be a little bit more buttery and therefore slightly quicker. That's basically it, that's the difference. So back to the context of hard pads. The Cyclones are seeking to compete with the Xraypad Obsidian dots and every other hard pad skate out there at the moment, and they're intended for glass or hard pad surfaces because they're made of hardened PTFE, which means they'll be more durable on hard playing surfaces, which tend to wear down normal dot skates within a few weeks or months, depending on how much pressure you apply to your mice. On a hard playing surface, Cyclones are so incredibly smooth, you can hardly feel any resistance. It's almost like the mouse is floating above the surface when it's in motion, but it still has just enough friction to offer some stopping power too. I like that there is an alternative to the Obsidian dots, which have been my go-to skates on glass for a while, and I don't have any complaints about the Obsidian dots, honestly. But the Ghostglide offering is black, and I like the way they look. I am a simple log, after all. So with reference to the differences between the Obsidian dots and the Cyclones, the skates are functionally pretty similar, but the Ghostglide offering is a hair smaller, ever so slightly smaller, and possibly more rounded, which may offer a slightly lower friction experience, although I can't really tell the difference in performance during actual use, if I'm being completely honest. The Cyclone skates are a really good option if you're looking for the smoothest glide experience on a hard pad, while also providing longevity with that hardened PTFE composition. They're also a great option if you switch between hard and soft pads frequently like I do, because they perform pretty well on both. Finally, let's talk about the SkyPAD and Xraypad collaboration. They've worked together to bring a new glass-focused dot skate to the market called the Obsidian Pros, and they've struck gold with these, in my opinion. The skates are made of a different material called UHMWPE, and according to the website, it offers a lower friction experience and better control. The material used feels less slippery than PTFE, and it also has better wear properties than PTFE too. So this is a direct competitor with the Cyclone skates and the normal Obsidian dot skates I've already spoken about. The difference between the SkyPAD skates and the other options on the market is that the SkyPAD skates are a little more gritty in the way that they perform. That's the best way I can describe it. It isn't an unpleasant feeling, it just offers a lot more feedback from the playing surface due to the hardness of the material. The pad feels the slightest bit more textured when using these dots, and they offer a touch more control as a result. I actually think these will be my go-to hard pad skates going forward because they really do feel nice to use. The grittiness you feel from the skates doesn't take away from the dynamic glide of the surface, it just really helps when it comes to the stopping power, which is sometimes lacking on those really fast speed glass pad surfaces. My biggest criticism of the SkyPAD 3.0 has been the complete lack of stopping power that it has. Well, with these skates, you get a hint more control and it makes all the difference. The SkyPAD feels way more manageable for me now with these skates installed, and I actually really like it. It's a really nice experience. The feel of the SkyPAD with these gates installed feels somewhat comparable to the Superglide when using normal PTFE feet, maybe even slightly more controlled than that. I tested these gates on all of my hard pads and they functioned the same way on those too. But I felt the least amount of increased control during my testing on the Padsmith's Dark Chaos pad for whatever reason, possibly due to the tighter textured surface. The SkyPAD skates feel like a bit of a no-brainer to me if you're a hard pad user that sometimes suffers from that wriggly feeling at the end of your swipes. These skates will help you manage that wriggly feeling and make your flicks more consistent on that rapid playing surface. The biggest downside to these skates for me is that they aren't intended for cloth pad use. So if you switch between surfaces often like I do, you may find yourself switching skates very often. On a cloth pad, these dots feel a bit like a slightly textured plastic. It doesn't feel good at all on a cloth playing surface. It's almost like rubbing the base of your mouse against the surface of the mouse pad. It's a similar sensation. So if you do switch up playing surfaces quite often, like me, I'd suggest the Cyclones are probably a more versatile option for you to use. So if you want to try a bunch of cool skates, Ghostglides and Xraypad and SkyPAD have got you covered. So my two favourites are without a doubt the Vortex and the SkyPAD Obsidian Pro Dots, because they're really fun to use and I love to see companies innovating. The other two dots on offer by Ghostglides will come down to your personal preferences. They offer a more conventional experience, but they're still great to have as options on the market and I like them a lot so far. I'll certainly keep a few packs in my collection to keep myself stocked up. My final point is that SkyPAD are running a huge discount on their pads at the moment. So for the next few days, if you go to Amazon or the skypad.gg website, you can get their pads for about 50% off, which is a banging deal. If you're on the edge of whether to buy one or not, now is the time to try it. So you'll get that 40 or 50% discount from the website. If you go direct to SkyPAD, you can use my code LogPile at discount for an extra 10%, which would just help support me as well and fund my mouse addiction. All right, take care now. Ciao bella, ciao bella. Will you stop shitting while I'm recording? Fucking A.